We are now talking to creator of MLB Daily Dingers and Mets Mirage writer, Matt Musico. What's going on, Matt?
Nothing much, guys. What's going on? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. We love you. And now that baseball's back, 162 games, thank God. I'm sure.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, well, again, we've seen enough with Rob Manfred. We would just want to throw ourselves off a bridge. But I believe he will be looking towards 2 more years, and then he will be on his way out because Theo Epstein will probably be taking over for him. I cannot see him lasting after 2024. I think the whole reason why he didn't take that Mets job when he had the opportunity was the fact that he wants to take over for baseball, and I think he would be the perfect fit for baseball. But before
a commissioner that everyone likes, that sounds really fun.
Yeah, there you go, Theo. Well, I'm a Yankee fan. I'm not a big fan of Theo Epstein, but
you can appreciate him at least.
Yes, I do appreciate him. That guy's a smart man. He knows what he's doing, and he probably knows a lot more than Rob Manfred does. I mean, Rob Manfred knows just as much as a mouse knows to a piece of cheese. So there you go. Anyways, so why don't we get into some Mets conversation? And Max Scherzer has pitched pretty damn well for his first 2 appearances in spring training. What were your thoughts today, pitching the way he has, and really where this Mets team is right now, going on, I think, I guess you could say the 2nd week or 3rd week of spring training?
Yeah, I mean, they look pretty good. I mean, obviously with Max, he's had 2 appearances. He's pitched 5 innings and 6 innings, which seems like the most Max Scherzer thing that can possibly happen in spring training. But he looks incredibly sharp, ready to roll. It seems like most of them look pretty sharp, at least for the time being. As we're talking right now, the Mets are up 9-0 on the Marlins, and so it's nice to see the offense getting going a little bit. But it's hard to not get excited, but also at that same time, this is the point in the year where I get excited, but I'm also ready to get hurt again by the Mets because it's just the circle of life as a Mets fan. But but they seem primed and ready to roll, and the NL East is going to be a freaking dogfight. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch that unfold between the Mets and the Braves and the Phillies. Although who knows if the Phillies are ever going to catch a baseball with the way that their lineup is constructed. But it's going to be a good challenge. And Max said it, I think, after his first start, that he wants the NL East to be the way that it is. Because, obviously, as an athlete, you want to face the best. And you want to be battle-tested the most by the time you get to August and September and October. So you're ready to withstand that. So they look great so far. Obviously, it's only spring training. Take some things with a grain of salt. But everything's looking good. Most people are staying healthy, knock on wood, for right now. So, I mean, we'll see what happens from here.
That's not going to last, as you know.
No, yeah, we know that.
So from the last time we had you on, you actually have now created the MLB Daily Dinger. So give the fans a breakdown of what that is.
Yeah, so almost a couple years ago now, I just started a Twitter account at MLB Daily Dingers just because I thought people love baseball. I love baseball. I love home runs. I wonder if people would like just watching random home runs throughout the day. And it's built up to almost about 2,000 followers now.
Good for you,
people
man.
have enjoyed it. The goal was to always turn it into a blog. I had no idea what it looked like when I started the Twitter account, but the blog itself launched probably about a month and a half ago now. And what I noticed when I was looking around is that obviously we have things like Baseball Reference, Baseball Almanac, and places like that have all these databases of lists for all different kinds of things. Most home runs all time, most home runs in a season, all those different kinds of situations. But from what I could see from my seat was that what was missing was taking all those stats and all those databases and turning into like some context and adding some videos to it as well. So the goal with MLB Daily Dingers is to have it eventually be a written and video library of home run history. So giving you some context, giving you some videos to watch. This way you don't have to go 3 or 4 different places to get what you're looking for. So it's been fun so far. And right now I'm just continuing to try and build up content to have as much on there before baseball season starts.
We are talking to creator of MLB Daily Dingers and Mets Mirage writer Matt Musico. Matt, we've watched the Mets year in and year out for the last, I would say, 2 years, and the rebirth of this team ever since the Wilpons are gone. The Uncle Steve Cohen's new Mets organization. They're bringing in new management. I just knew everything. He's trying to figure out where this team is going to be in the future and what this team is going to be moving forward with analytics and everything like that. Now with all the new rule changes and now there's no more shifting, I think not this year, but next year when the shifting is completely obsolete, I think the game is going to completely change. With the Mets right now, and you look at Lindor this year, you look at some of the players that they had, the Martes of the world, even guys that are looking for new contracts, as we all know. Where do you see this team as the season begins? Are they going to be a team that's going to start slow, or are they going to really pick up fast and figure out who their identity is early in the season?
Within recent history, it's been a little bit of a mixed bag when it comes to the start. And I've written about this a few times on Metsmerize, is that obviously you can't win any championships in April, but it can certainly help propel you in that direction. Thinking about the 2015 and 2016 team in particular, they had great Aprils. Mm-hmm. And for 2015, they struggled after April, and they were around 500 around by the trade deadline, but they hung around just enough to get that little, extra kick in the pants that they needed once they got Cespedes and everyone else to go on that run. Same thing in 2016. They had a great April, and then they were dead in the water in August, but then everyone came back, and then they got what they needed to get onto that stretch. It doesn't always work that way. I think it was whenever it was Mickey Callaway's first year as manager, they had that incredible April, and then the bottom fell out in typical Mets fashion, as it does. So, I mean, it's not as if it's necessary to have a quick start. I think for a team with new ownership and, pretty much revamped front office and roster and coaching staff, I think it's helpful to have some kind of quick start from a confidence building standpoint. They got to, they're not going to find out exactly who they are in April and May, but they can find out who they're not at the same time too. And I think with someone like Buck Showalter steering the ship, I think he brings that kind of energy that they need to kind of just they need to be a little bit more businesslike. And it seems as if that's been kind of the mood at spring training so far, at least this abbreviated version of spring training that they've had. I don't think it's totally necessary, but I think for this team in particular, especially being in a big market, especially being in a division that could be a heavyweight fight from start to finish, they have to take care of business in certain situations. Starting well, playing well within their division, beating up on losing teams, at least staying afloat, treading water against winning teams. They need to be able to do those certain things to put themselves in the position to hopefully be a contender for the playoffs come August and September.
So one of our fans, before I get to my question, Carl was saying, tell him to put on Glenn Allen's monster home run that landed on the roof across from Wrigley.
By the way, I wanted to do this before anything. I want to say happy birthday to Carl Falk, okay?
Oh, happy birthday, Carl.
It is his birthday today. It's all over social media. I love you, man. Happy birthday. Many, many more to come. Thank you for being such a great fan. So there you go.
Happy birthday, Carl. So
happy birthday, Carl.
My question to you is about the tax level rule. One of the things in the CBA was the competitive balance tax, which they were doing. A lot of people think they were doing in reference to Steve Cohen and the amount of money he was spending. The fourth tax level adding at $60 million. Do you think that'll change the approach for Steve Cohen? And how would you approach it if you were the Mets front office in terms of managing the money with this rule in place?
Well, I mean, I think it'll probably maybe be an extra conversation for them to have. I mean, when everyone first finally got to Port St. Lucie, all the reporters were essentially asking him, and he said something that was typically funny, as he's pretty funny. I think it was like it's having the tax essentially named after him was more of an honor than having a bridge named after him, something like that, he said. I don't think this is a dude that spent $140 million on a piece of art. So I don't think he's going to necessarily blink twice if he really feels like if he really feels like a certain move is going to help put them over the top, because first and foremost, he's a fan. So I think he kind of brings that kind of mindset to this, and also allows his front office to just continue to bring him opportunities. Working in the front office, you could always trying to find ways to get better and to improve the squad. And more or less, you just have to bring it to get approved. And the worst thing that Cohen can say is, no, we can't do that right now. But for someone who's worth
$15 billion.
15. I mean, there's not going to be many things that are off the table, especially if they present it in a way that it could really make a difference for the club. So, I mean, it's a pleasure to actually have this problem. I know Brandon Nimmo said it was a little frustrating that they finally have an owner who's willing to spend, and now they have this extra tax on top. But I don't think it's going to be a big deal for Cohen, just because he wants to win first and foremost. And I think he's shown that over this past offseason with how much money he's spent already. And, nothing is really going to be off the table from a financial perspective, at least moving forward.
As everybody knows, we are talking to creator of MLB Daily Dingers and Metsmerize writer Matt Musico. And I will say this: buying championships never work. We've seen this with the Yankees. It never worked. It worked in 2009.
I was going to say, it worked in 2009.
Yeah, it worked in 2009, and it has not worked since then. I mean, they brought Jason Giambi. How many years did they have Johnny Damon? It didn't work. And when the Yankees were at the top of their game, they built around a roster of young players like Derek Jeter, Jorge Posada, Andy Pettitte, Bernie Williams. They had a full-fledged farm system where they brought in players to fill in the spots of veteran players. But let's get into more of the National League East. Now, we talk about the Braves obviously losing one of the best players, one of the best hitters in all of baseball. He goes to the Dodgers in Freeman. They bring in another player who I think, coming from the American League, now that there is a DH, is the DH fill in this year? Is that this year? It is this year, but the shifting isn't this year, which is very weird. I don't understand that. But what are your thoughts with now the DH filling in now in the National League? Does this benefit the Mets? Does it benefit the National League East now with some of the players that they have, that they're the additions in the National League East? Where do you see this working out for the National League East?
Well, it definitely benefits at least a handful of teams in the National League East. I made the joke about the Phillies not being able to catch the ball. It's certainly, the joke was, universal DH didn't mean that the entire team could be DHs, but, they at least have one spot for the DH in Philly. So it certainly helps the way that they've built their club. It certainly helps them. And for the Mets, too, if they have certain guys that perform to their potential, or at least like their recent breakouts, like Dom Smith or JD Davis, it could certainly help them. And also keeps Jacob deGrom out of the batter's box so he doesn't get hurt trying to hit, which is also helpful. So I think it's definitely a positive for the Mets. And it's probably going to be the only way Robinson Cano is going to see any kind of regular at-bats as well, too, hopefully. But having JD Davis as the righty, Dom Smith as the lefty, Robinson Cano as a lefty as well, being able to do some mixing and matching, maybe putting Dom Smith at first base a little bit more often than they have in the past. And it's nice to have someone like Buck Showalter, who has had experience with the DH his entire managerial career, knowing how to kind of use that and mix and match and make that kind of stuff work. So I think it could help the Mets. It'll definitely help the Phillies. I don't see how it's going to be, and it'll definitely help the Nats because I think they have Nelson Cruz now. So, that's also a plus for them. I think across the board, it's going to be helpful for many of these clubs just because, we all know how bad the pitcher hitting statistics are, even though it is fun to watch them hit. At least it was fun for me to watch them hit. But it's going to bring about more offense, hopefully. It'd be a little bit more exciting 1 through 9. You don't have that mostly given out at the end of the lineup. So I think it'll be helpful for most teams on offense, and it'll make it a little bit more tricky for pitching staffs too, just because they haven't had to deal with that consistently.
Carl also says Schwarber could DH for the Phillies. Yeah, have fun with Rhys Hoskins playing defense.